It happened when I was 9 years old and my sister Mia was 11. We lived in a quiet town in Ohio. The house was old but comfortable. Our parents didn't like us going into the basement though. They said it was dangerous, full of old junk and never really used. But Mia and I were curious. The basement was dark and cold, and there was always this strange smell of dust and wood. I was scared of it, and I never went down there alone. But one night something happened that I couldn't explain. It started like any other night. Mia and I shared a room on the second floor while our parents slept downstairs. It was the middle of the night when I woke up. I could hear the quiet hum of the house. It was so still. Then I heard it. My mom's voice. It was faint at first, just a whisper from downstairs. "Liam, come down here." I blinked and looked at Mia, who was still asleep next to me. I sat up confused. "Mom," I whispered, but she didn't answer. I rubbed my eyes and listened more closely. Again it came. The same voice, soft, gentle. "Liam, I need your help. Come downstairs." Something in my chest felt tight. I looked at Mia, but she didn't wake up. I kept hearing the voice calling me, so I stood up, almost in a trance. But then Mia stirred. "What are you doing?" she whispered, rubbing her eyes. "Mom's calling me," I said, still unsure. Mia looked at me like I was crazy. "Mom's asleep. It's the middle of the night." I stared at the door to our room. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. "Don't go, Liam," Mia whispered urgently. "It's not Mom. It can't be." In the morning, I told Mom about the voice. She was surprised but didn't seem too worried. "You must have dreamed it," she said, brushing it off. But I knew it wasn't a dream. I had heard it clearly. The night passed without anything strange happening. I thought maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just a dream after all. But that night, the same thing happened. I woke up again at exactly the same time, 2 a.m. I heard it again, clear as day. "Liam, I need you." It was louder now, more urgent. My heart raced. The voice was no longer calm, it sounded desperate. I looked at Mia, who was wide awake, staring at the door. "It's not Mom," Mia said firmly. "Do not go down there. Do you hear that? It's not right." The voice continued. "Liam, come to the basement. Please, come downstairs." My body felt frozen. I couldn't move. I wanted to go and I wanted to help, but Mia grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. "No, Liam, it's not her. It's not Mom. Whatever it is, don't go." I stayed still, staring at the door. My mind raced, thinking about the basement. It was so dark down there, so empty. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The house was silent again, but the voice was still echoing in my mind. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. We just lay there in the dark, listening. Neither of us spoke. Every few minutes I thought I heard something. Footsteps, slow and heavy. It was like someone was walking upstairs, and then the sound came closer, near our door. I held my breath, trying to make out what it was. The door creaked as if something heavy was leaning against it. Then the sound stopped. The house fell into an unnatural silence. And then it happened. I saw something move, a shadow. From the corner of my eye, I saw it, someone standing at the top of the basement stairs. I could barely see it in the dark, but I knew it wasn't just my imagination. It was a figure, tall and thin, and it stood completely still, staring at me. I held my breath, unable to move. The figure slowly turned its head and looked at me. It had no eyes, just black voids in its face. The next morning I told my mom everything. I told her about the shadow, about the voice, but she didn't believe me. She just shook her head and said I was dreaming. But Mia and I knew something was wrong. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. At around 2 a.m., we heard it again. The voice. But this time it wasn't soft and gentle. Liam, open the door. There was an edge to it now. Something dark and angry. Then we heard something else, something worse. A growl, low and deep. It came from the basement. The growl echoed in the walls of the house. I could feel it in my chest. It was so terrifying that I almost couldn't breathe. Mia and I held hands, terrified. The growl didn't stop. It kept getting louder, almost like it was coming toward us. Then a loud bang on the basement door. The whole house shook. The next morning we called Grandma. We told her everything. She listened carefully, then said something that made my heart drop. That basement is cursed, child. There is something down there, something that is not human. You must never open that door, never. Grandma told us to burn a white candle and put it by the basement door. Light it, and don't let that thing in, she said. So that night, Mia and I did what Grandma told us. We lit the white candle and placed it on the floor in front of the basement door. We locked the door and climbed into bed, trying to stay calm. But we weren't calm, not at all. Around 2 a.m., we heard it again. But this time it wasn't a whisper, it was a scream. Liam, open the door, I need you. The voice was louder now, almost shrill. We heard footsteps, heavy footsteps dragging along the floor. Then the knocking came again, harder, louder, boom, boom, boom. The whole house seemed to shake. Mia and I jumped out of bed. We backed into the corner, terrified. I could feel the fear taking over. And then, everything went silent. It was too quiet, so quiet that it felt wrong. The next day, Dad found something strange. The white candle we had placed by the door was gone. The plate it was sitting on had shattered, and there was a thick layer of cold air around the basement door. Dad said we had to leave. That night, we packed our things and went to stay at Grandma's house. Dad said he would call someone to check the house. Weeks later, we found out the truth. The house had been empty for years. The family that lived there before us had left suddenly. No one really knew why. It was only then we learned the history of the house. The woman who had lived there, her name was Ellen. She had lost her son in a fire. People said she never recovered, that she spent the rest of her life waiting for him to come back, sitting in the basement. Some even said she went mad and died in the basement waiting for him. We moved out, but I never forgot what happened. I thought I could leave it behind, but some nights I still hear that voice. One night, years later, I woke up. It was around 2 a.m. and again. I heard the voice, soft and quiet. Liam. But this time I didn't answer. I never would. Last year I went on a camping trip with my cousin Ray. We were both 17. It was the summer break and we wanted to do something exciting. My uncle gave us permission to take his old van and camp by a quiet river outside of Oregon. The place was called Silent River Campground. We saw pictures online. It looked peaceful with lots of trees and a calm river. We packed sleeping bags, a small tent, flashlights, water bottles, snacks, and a camping stove. My mom was a bit worried, but Ray convinced her. "We'll be back in 2 days," he said. We reached the campsite around 4 in the evening. The sky was cloudy, but the air was fresh. There were no other campers there. just us and nature. We parked the van near the edge of the forest and walked down to the river. It was quiet, almost too quiet. No birds, no wind, no sound. Ray laughed. No wonder it's called Silent River. We set up the tent near the van. There was a fire pit made of rocks already there. We cooked noodles, listened to music, and talked about school. At night, we climbed into the tent, zipped it shut, and tried to sleep. That's when we heard the first sound. A soft splashing, like someone was walking slowly in the shallow water of the river. Ray sat up first. "You hear that?" he whispered. I nodded. We stayed still and listened. Splash, splash, splash. Slow, calm, like someone barefoot was walking in the water. We peeked through the tent window. The river was about 40 feet away. It was too dark to see clearly. We didn't have night vision or strong flashlights. Then the sound stopped. We told ourselves it was maybe a deer or maybe fish jumping. Still, we didn't sleep for a while. At around 3 a.m., Ray shook me awake. He whispered, "There's someone out there." I sat up, my heart started pounding. He pointed toward the river. There in the moonlight stood a figure. A man. He was just standing, knee-deep in the river, not moving, just standing. His back was turned to us. "What the hell is he doing?" I whispered. We watched in silence. Then the man slowly turned his head, just his head, not his body, toward us. His face was pale, eyes wide open. We ducked down inside the tent, too scared to breathe. 10 minutes passed. Then we heard footsteps, not in the river this time, and on the gravel near the van. Crunch, crunch. We held each other's arms, frozen. Then the footsteps moved to the grass near our tent. They stopped right outside. Ray grabbed the pocket knife we kept beside our bags. We heard slow breathing, right outside the fabric wall. Then, scratch, scratch. Something dragged along the tent side. We didn't move. We didn't speak. After a few minutes, the sounds faded. At sunrise, we ran to the van. We were ready to leave. But when Ray turned the key, the engine wouldn't start. "No, no, no," he muttered. "It was working fine." We checked the battery. It looked fine. We tried again. Nothing. I looked toward the river again. There was no man now, but something else. A girl. She stood on the far side of the riverbank, wearing a white dress, hair covering her face. She wasn't moving, just watching us. I yelled, "What do you want?" She didn't answer. She just vanished, gone in a blink. We packed up fast, tent, bags, everything. We tried calling for help. No signal. We even walked a mile down the forest road, but it felt like we were just going in circles. Finally, we decided to wait until another car passed by, but no one came. The area was remote, that's why we picked it. By evening, we were tired and hungry. We sat inside the van, doors locked. Ray said, "If they come back, we stay in here." At around 11 p.m., we heard the splashing again. Ray looked at me. He's back. I looked through the windshield. There he was, the same man, standing in the water. But now, he wasn't alone. The girl stood beside him, both staring at us. Still, cold, empty eyes. Suddenly they started walking toward the van, but not like people walk. They floated above the ground, silent, slow. We panicked. Ray held a flashlight and pointed it at them. They stopped, but their eyes glowed like animals. Then the girl opened her mouth and screamed. A scream so loud it shook the glass of the van. I passed out. I don't remember how. Ray said I just collapsed. He stayed awake, knife in hand, waiting for morning. At dawn, they were gone. We tried the van again. This time it worked. We drove as fast as we could until we reached a gas station. We told the man working there everything. He stared at us and said, "You camped near the Silent River?" We nodded. He said, "Locals don't go near that place." We asked why. He said, "A man drowned his daughter there and then walked into the river and disappeared. They never found their bodies." When I got home, I told my mom everything. She went pale and said she had dreamed of a girl screaming that night. Ray and I promised never to go back. A month later, I found something strange in my backpack. A rock, smooth and black. Carved into it was one word: stay. I threw it into the river behind our house. But sometimes at night I hear water splashing outside my window, even though there's no river near us. I hadn't seen Aunt Clara in years, and I never knew she had a son who died in the very room I was about to sleep in. She lives alone in a big old house near the woods. My parents were traveling for work, and I needed a break from city life. Aunt Clara said I could stay with her for a few days. I hadn't seen her since I was a kid, but I remembered she was kind and funny. The drive was long. It took me almost 8 hours. I reached her place around 6 in the evening. Her house was huge. The paint on the walls was peeling. The windows were tall with wooden frames. It looked like a picture from the past, not scary, just old and quiet. When I got out of the car, she waved at me from the porch. "Look at you all grown up," she said with a big smile. I smiled back and hugged her. She still smelled like lavender and cookies. Inside the house, everything felt untouched by time. The furniture was old but clean. A big grandfather clock stood near the stairs, ticking loudly. There were paintings on the wall, black and white photos of people I didn't know. It felt like the house was full of memories. "This place hasn't changed a bit," I said. Clara laughed. "That's the charm, dear." She made tea and we sat down in the living room. She asked about college, friends, and life. Talking to her felt warm and easy. The sun went down slowly and the house became darker. She lit candles instead of using many lights. After dinner, I said I was tired. She nodded and said, "You'll sleep in the guest room upstairs. It's been empty for years, but I cleaned it this morning." I thanked her and walked upstairs. The hallway upstairs was quiet. Wooden floors creaked under my feet. When I opened the guest room door, I saw a small bed with a thick blanket, a mirror, and a closet with 2 big wooden doors. The room smelled like dust and something old, like books that hadn't been opened in years. There was no light inside, just the moonlight coming through a narrow window. I didn't mind. I was tired. I changed clothes, brushed my teeth, and lay down on the bed. The blanket was heavy but warm. As I closed my eyes, I heard the wind outside blowing through the trees. Sometime in the night, I woke up. My mouth was dry. I sat up to drink water from the bottle I kept beside the bed. That's when I noticed something. The closet door, it was slightly open. I was sure I'd closed it. I remembered doing it before lying down. I stood up and walked over. I gently pushed it shut and went back to bed. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the old hinges were loose. but still I couldn't fall asleep right away. I lay on my side, facing the window, trying to ignore the feeling that something was watching me. The second night, something stranger happened. I had a hard time sleeping. The room felt cold even though it was summer. I wrapped the blanket tighter. I looked at the closet door again. This time it was wide open. I froze. A dark shape was inside the closet. It looked like a tall figure, too tall for a person. It didn't move, but the shape was clear, shoulders, a head, arms. At first I thought it was a coat or maybe a dress hanging. But Aunt Clara had said the room was empty for years. I didn't have the courage to walk up to it. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, "It's nothing. You're just tired." But when I opened my eyes again, it was still there. When morning came, sunlight filled the room. I jumped out of bed and ran to the closet. It was empty. There were no coats, no dresses, nothing. I walked downstairs. Aunt Clara was making breakfast. "Did you store anything in the guest room closet?" I asked. She looked up from the stove and said, "No, why?" I told her what I saw. She chuckled softly. "This house is old. It makes people see things sometimes," she said. Her answer didn't help. It felt like she was hiding something. That afternoon, I explored the attic. I found a wooden box with a rusty lock. It was small, hidden behind some books. I carried it downstairs. "Aunt Clara, what's this?" I asked. She looked at the box and her smile faded. "That belonged to my son," she said quietly. "Your cousin Henry." I blinked. "I didn't know you had a son." She nodded slowly. "He passed away when he was just 17. He used to sleep in that room." I asked how he died, but she didn't answer. She just said, "Accident. Long time ago." That night I couldn't sleep. I stayed up late scrolling my phone. Then I heard a soft sound, a whisper. It was coming from the closet. I turned my head. The closet door was open. Again. I sat up, staring into the darkness. Then I heard it clearly, Mom. It was a boy's voice, a whisper, sad and soft. I didn't move. My body froze. The closet door slowly creaked shut by itself. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I confronted Aunt Clara. "I heard someone in the closet," I said. Her eyes welled up with tears. "I still hear him sometimes too," she said. I stared at her. She continued, "After the accident, I kept his room untouched. He loved that closet. He used to hide inside it as a child. It's like a piece of him never left." I didn't know what to say. She touched my hand gently. "Don't be afraid, he's not here to harm you." I stayed one more night. I lit a candle in the room and placed it near the closet. "I'm sorry," I whispered, not knowing if I was talking to Henry or to the air. I slept peacefully that night. In the morning, the candle had gone out and the closet door was closed. When I packed my things, I found a folded piece of paper on my pillow. It was old, yellowed, and had a drawing of a boy with a smiley face. At the bottom it said, "Thank you.